Good morning, Believer's House, and those of you who join us here. And today we're having in our morning devotions, we're looking at Matthew chapter 7. Today I'm only going to look at verses 1 and 2. So I'm going to read that to you. Judge not that you will not be judged, for with that judgment you judge, you will be judged, and with that measure you use, it will be measured back to you. This particular scripture at times is used by many that want to have a license to do what they want to do. They think that that means that they can get a clear pass for their attitudes and their lifestyles and the different things that they do, and maybe even ourselves if we do that. Don't judge me because you just want to do what you want to do. But that is not what this is saying. This is saying that the same measure, it's not saying not even to not judge, it's just saying the measure that we judge is the same measure that is going to be used against us or used on us. So we're to judge people as we would want to be judged. So I do know that means that's lessened the amount of judging I do, because I don't want to be judged in a lot of areas that I know that I want mercy rather than judgment. So the ultimate judge is the Lord, and I want to leave that up to Him, but I also want to err on the side of mercy, because His heart, He's always, mercy is first. And so He didn't prohibit the idea of judging. He only requires us to be fair and to by judging others at the same measure that we measure ourselves. And then also it says because it says with the measure that we use, it's going to come back to us. So it's important for us to be generous with love. It's important for us to be generous with mercy. It's important for us to be generous in goodness towards others and forgiveness. If we want those things from God, we have to give them to other people. And so we can still love people, but we don't have to accept their behaviors. We can still look at their fruit, because later on in, I think it's in around verse 15 and 16 or 16 and 17, somewhere in there, it talks about looking at a tree and making a judgment about its fruit. You know, a good tree brings forth good fruit. A bad tree brings out bad fruit. A good tree doesn't give you bad fruit, and a bad tree doesn't bring you good fruit. And so there is a measure in this same chapter that we are to look, and we are to look at fruit. And so I think the difference is that the people that we choose to align with are not trees that give out bad fruit. There's also a portion in this chapter that talks about dogs and swine and pearls and that sort of thing. And a Christian, one who's wanting to live biblically, will appreciate the sting of a correction, because in the long run, it's good for them. But someone who's not living a godly life doesn't want to be corrected, because they want to live in whatever they're living in. And an illustration would be someone who is blindfolded, and they're running at full tilt, and up ahead there's a big ditch or a big pit, right? So a loving thing for another Christian or another person would be to either yell out for them to stop or to tackle them so that they wouldn't fall into the pit, right? So would that sting? Sure, but it would save them from a bigger sting of falling in the pit. Now, if you were blindfolded running toward a pit, would someone want to stop? Would you want someone to stop you? Or would you want them to not judge you and let you run into the pit? And I think, that we have to think about things that easily. Is this better for them because it's better for them in the long run, even though it might sting lightly now? Is it something that's good for them? And again, those who are not wanting to live a biblical life don't want to be corrected. They want to be justified in what they're doing. They want permission to sin. So I think we have to really do as this chapter is talking about: look at the tree and see whether the fruit consistently is bad fruit, or if the tree is consistently giving off good fruit, but maybe it's a wrong choice. Then we correct that. And I think we need to look at things as a whole, not as in one instance. One of the things I've learned as well is we have a tendency to judge ourselves by our intentions, but we judge others by their actions. And so we really need to think very closely before we make judgments. And I think we're wrong if we don't make judgments, but we need to make judgments with wisdom. And we need to remember mercy triumphs over judgment. And we also need to remember that he's not calling us not to judge, he's just calling us to do it fairly.